Bonjour and hello. In this lesson, you will learn about interacting with files via Python. In the workplace, developers are often asked to read or generate files for upper management. Luckily, Python can do a lot of the heavy lifting for us, so you don't have to spend hours creating Excel sheets. Instead, you can simply generate CSV or text files with Python. In this lesson, you will see how to work with text files in particular. So, let's create a file. Open is a built-in Python function that is used to declare that we are working with files, where W means that we want to write to the file. Our first parameter, example.txt, is the file name for which Python will look for in the same directory as our Python file is located in. Alternatively, we can specify an absolute path. As such, if the file does not exist, then Python will create a new file for us. All right, so using the relative path, not the absolute path, let us write 10 lines into our text file. And for this, we will use a for loop. So for I in range 10, we will do file.write. Okay, and we are writing line number just like that. All right, and recall that the curly braces in my string represent a placeholder that is filled out with the value inside format. So in this case, it is the I, which represents the iteration of the for loop. And once we are done working with our file, we need to close the file to avoid any memory leaks using file.close. All right, let's run our code. And you can see our file has been created right here in the same directory. So if we click it directly here, you can see it's all there. All right, what if we don't want our file to be all amalgamated as such, right? We actually want to write each line by line and be separated. So there's a simple fix for that. Right here, we add /n, which indicates go to new line. So if we rerun our code, right, click run, go back to our example text, we can see it's now beautifully organized line by line. Notice how when we ran the program the second time, all of our information was rewritten. And this is because we are using the W subscript right here. If we want to add to the file instead of overwriting it every time, we will use the append subscript, which is A. All right, so let's comment it out for clarity's sake. We'll copy paste this, comment it out, and write A. So right now, instead of overwriting, this will simply add information to the end of the existing file. So let's take a look. This time we will use a slightly different line, and we will say we are appending to our new line. Cool. And we'll do something like +10, since we already have 10 lines. All right, so we will run it again. And you can see we have our existing 10 lines and we have our 10 new lines. If we want to read an existing file's content line by line, which is actually the most popular method in the real world since it reduces memory usage for large files, we use the R subscript. So let's comment out our previous code and we will do something like file open. And since we already have our example.txt, we'll use it again and use the subscript R, which means read. So for line in file, and here we are reading it line by line as I mentioned, we will simply print out the line that we see. We'll say line and print out the line. And of course, never forget to close the file like that. So let's run our code and see what happens. We can see our output right here. All of our lines are nicely shown, and if we go to our example.txt, nothing is of course overwritten since we are just reading it. The full subscript table can be seen in the snippets below this video. Now that we can read and write text files, let's make it even more professional by using the with statement. The with statement allows us to open a resource, execute a block of code, and automatically close the resource upon failure or success. In this case, the resource is the file itself. So all we have to do to modify this code is, we'll copy it here for clarity, and we will say with file, no longer need to name it here. We say with open as file, and we tab it out and remove close. Very, very easy, very simple, very clean. And if we run it, we can see no problem, exact same output. Notice how we don't have to close the file here, since it's automatically managed by the with statement right here. Ideally, use the with statement whenever you are interacting with files or any other sort of resource that could lead to potential memory leaks. Congratulations on learning how to interact with text files. You have just leveled up your application skills using Python. In the next lesson, you'll learn about error handling.